In a small village nestled at the foot of the verdant hills of Africa lived a poor widow named Nia. She was known throughout the village for her strength and resilience. Despite losing her husband at a young age, she managed to raise her two children, Eo and Komaria, by working hard every day. With no land of her own, Nia toiled under the scorching sun, working on other people's farms for a meager wage. Her hands were calloused, her back ached, but her spirit remained unbroken. One hot afternoon, Nia was working in the field of a wealthy villager. The sun was high, and sweat dripped down her face as she swung her hoe, turning over the dry soil. As she worked, she noticed something hard and metallic buried beneath the earth. Curious, she dug deeper and uncovered an old, rusty pot. It was large, with a wide mouth and a strange design etched into its sides, almost like ancient writing. At first, Nia thought it was just a worthless piece of junk, but something about the pot intrigued her. She wiped the dirt off with the edge of her cloth and decided to take it home. Maybe, she thought, it could be used to store grain or water. When she reached home that evening, her children ran to greet her. They noticed the pot immediately. "Mother, what is that?" asked Eo, her eldest son. "I'm not sure, my dear," Nia replied. "I found it in the field today. I thought it might be useful for us." That night, Nia placed the pot in the corner of her small hut. She had only one yam left in her basket, so she decided to put it in the pot to keep it safe from rats. Exhausted from the day's labor, she soon fell asleep. The next morning, Nia woke up early, as she always did. As she walked past the pot, she noticed something strange. She stopped and looked closer. There, inside the pot, lay not one yam, but two. Her eyes widened in surprise. She was certain she had put only one yam inside. Confused but curious, she reached in and pulled out the yams. They were fresh and firm, just as they had been the night before. "This is strange," Nia thought. She decided to test the pot. She took a small coin, the only money she had, then dropped it into the pot. Then, she waited. A few moments later, she looked inside and gasped. 2 coins were sitting there now. Her heart started beating faster, her mind racing with possibilities. Was this magic? Could it be a gift from the spirits or the ancestors? Nia decided to keep this discovery to herself for the time being. Over the next few days, she experimented with the pot, placing different things inside. Everything she put into the pot, whether it was a handful of grain, a few beans, or even a piece of cloth, would multiply overnight. Soon, her small hut began to overflow with food, clothes, and even money. For the first time in years, Nia and her children ate their fill. She gave some of the food to her neighbors, who were surprised by her sudden good fortune but grateful nonetheless. As days passed, word of Nia's newfound prosperity spread throughout the village. People began to talk. How had this poor widow, who had struggled for so long, suddenly become so blessed? The village chief, a greedy man named Odhiambo, grew suspicious. He decided to pay Nia a visit. "Nia," Chief Odhiambo said, forcing a smile. "I hear you have been very fortunate lately. Tell me, what is your secret?" Nia hesitated but knew she could not lie to the chief. So, she told him the truth about the rusty pot she had found in the field and its mysterious powers. Odhiambo's eyes gleamed with greed as he listened. "A pot that multiplies anything placed inside it," he muttered. "Such a treasure should not be kept by a poor widow. It belongs to the village, or, better yet, to me, as the chief." That night, the chief sent his men to take the pot from Nia's home. Despite her pleas, they took it away, leaving her in tears. Odhiambo, thrilled by his acquisition, hurried back to his grand hut and decided to test the pot himself. He threw a handful of gold coins inside and waited. The next morning, to his delight, he found not one handful but 2. The chief laughed in triumph. He threw in more coins, more food, and even jewels. As the days passed, he grew greedier and greedier. He thought only of his wealth and how he could use the pot to become even richer. But soon, something strange began to happen. The pot started to multiply things at an alarming rate. Coins, food, and jewels began to overflow, spilling out of his heart and into the streets. The chief tried to control it, but it was no use. The pot had a life of its own. The village was soon flooded with wealth, food, and goods, far more than anyone needed. People began to panic. The abundance turned into chaos. The excess food rotted in the streets, attracting animals and insects. The wealth became worthless as there was too much for anyone to spend. The village, once peaceful, fell into disarray. Realizing his mistake, Chief Odhiambo grew desperate. He hurried back to Nia, seeking her help. "Nia, please, take back the pot. It is causing havoc in the village," he pleaded. Nia, still calm and wise, replied, "The pot was never meant for greed, Chief Odhiambo. It is a gift that must be respected and used with care." The chief, humbled and ashamed, returned the pot to Nia. She took it back into her humble home. From that day on, Nia used the pot wisely, only taking what she needed and sharing the rest to those in need. The village slowly returned to normal, and Nia became known not just for her hard work, but for her kindness and generosity. The rusty pot, now cherished and respected, brought peace and prosperity to Nia's family and to the entire village, not by creating endless wealth, but by teaching the value of gratitude, generosity, and living with what one truly needs. And so, Nia, the poor widow, became the village's richest soul, not because of the pot, but because of her heart.